So this is a new video in my series of geoeconomics and geopolitics. Today, I would like to speak about a Le Monde article. In this article, the Le Monde saying, with the title War in Ukraine, sending European troops under discussion. According to the article, Macron and Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, is seriously discussing sending land troops to Ukraine to help out the crumbling front and to support the Ukrainians resisting the Russian advancement. To say the truth, we have only one example in the recent history when an expeditionary force participated in helping a country under siege. This was the 1991 Gulf War, when Iraq in 1990 occupied with a 600,000 strong army Kuwait. Then the United States, after getting the approval of the UN, assembled a 1 million strong expedition force in order to liberate Kuwait. Before the beginning of the armed conflict, there was a 42 days long bombing and missile campaign against Iraq, which destroyed its air defenses, its key infrastructures, and debilitated its troops. And after 42 days of air campaign came the attack of the 1 million strong expeditionary force which destroyed the Iraqi army. Translate this event into the Ukrainian field. There are 650,000 strong Russian troops attacking Ukraine. So in order to balance the 600,000 Russian troops, which is a higher quality army than the Iraqi army was in 1992, with the 3 years of experience fighting war and a ready war machine with an immense amount of air defenses, air forces, and a very strong firepower, Europe at least needs to assemble a 1.5 million strong army in order to be able to decisively decide the end of the armed conflict in Ukraine. I mean, to say the truth, we all know exactly that the French land force is about 120,000 troops, and the English land force is about 80,000. Now, they couldn't send this 200,000 because then nobody remains at home, and there is a certain number of troops already deployed in various parts of the world, especially the French troops in Africa. So they may send 20, 30,000 strong troops, or they have to decide that they mobilize 1.5 million men to attack Russia. I mean, what a crazy. Is the French society is ready for this? Is the British society is ready for this? And how they would make a 42 days long, at least 42 days long, bombing and missile campaign against Russia, which is an immensely immensely big country with a lot of air defenses. Maybe the Russian armed forces is stronger, so certainly stronger and better equipped than the combined French and English army and British army. I mean, they don't have experts. Nobody is telling them that it is impossible task. And then most probably, even if they try it, most probably they only provoke a Russian nuclear response. And whether the United States will land a nuclear defense against the Russian attack, who knows? Because then the US also has to decide whether not only that Kiev is worse enough, but whether Paris or London is worse enough to offer New York or Washington. Maybe not, we don't know. Especially if Russians are saying that they are attacked by the British and the French troops. So clearly, this is a empty posturing, nothing else. Then if there is an empty posturing, why they are doing? why they publish this article, why they make believe the world that they are about to mobilize their armed forces, that they are seriously discussing to intervene in a war far away from the British and the French borders, with troops which is not enough to make a dent in the war. I mean, 20,000 troops what they could send, maybe Bakhmut for 1 month. This is enough to defend the Bakhmut style small city or relatively middle-sized city for a month or two against the Russian troops. No more. And they exchange for it, they are taking the risk to be bombed down by a nuclear warhead. Absolutely crazy. Their societies are not ready for this. Maybe they are not even. The real question is why they keep posturing. Why didn't they choose the only sane option? To try to negotiate seriously with Russia how to end the conflict. Maybe the real reason of this, that they secretly know that they won't appear on the battlefield, but they're sending messages to the Ukrainian leadership and Ukrainian people that be strong, we will come one day, you can trust us, and if not, not. So what they really preparing is a kind of Afghanistan-style trap. This is not their people. This is not their nation. Ukraine is already in war. They have their own reason to be in war. But they are also fighting because they hope that one day will arrive the European or even possibly American troops, help them out. Never. I mean, it's very clearly the budget, the military budget says everything. We are in the third year of the war, and Britain and France is just above 2% of military spending. When Britain in the mid-30s realized that Germany is rearming and there is possibly will come a new world war, Chamberlain, the famous minister, he is famous about appeasement, but he should be famous about because he began to rearm Britain. The military budget went up to 8% of the GDP, and Britain has built up in the years between the mid-30s until the war, the Air Force which won the air battle over England. I mean, neither France nor Britain is doing anything remotely similar. They are just spending on military the minimal necessity to be in the NATO club. They don't prepare war. They don't really ready to enter into the war. This is empty posturing. The problem of empty posturing that it creates false hopes on both sides and false fears, because there is a possibility of that it's very easy to get sleepwalking, which is not sleepwalking. It is really posturing and hoping that something will happen. This is a dead end. This only lengthens the war, lengthens the tragedy, and lengthens the suffering. It's better to be clear and to say the reality. This is what we could do and no more. Don't hope more. Take into account what we are ready to do in reality and act accordingly. You may resist, you may seek a compromise. After all, at least a part of Ukraine, which is especially on the east, which is where the war is on, is a partly pro-Russian, with a sizable Russian population or Russian sympathizer population. I mean, there are a number of facts and reports on the press, even in the Western press, which is supporting that a lot of local people is just waiting for the Russian troops because they are Russians or sympathizing with the Russian case, and they are not feeling that Ukraine is their state. So if this is the situation, why don't be clear? Stop the war, end the chance to sleepwalking into a world war, and this kind of empty posturing. We still have always the option that because of honesty and prestige, at the end they are saying so much that you couldn't really backtrack. Be realistic, seek compromise, end the war, and restore the trade relationship in Europe, which is actually a key factor in European competitiveness and a key factor that European economy, which is about to go into recession, or even possibly is even recession now, could have enough input to avoid recession. This is the interest of whole Europe, maybe Ukraine also, and for Russia also. Let's open the chance for peace. Thanks.